Welcome back into another episode of the Daft on Draft podcast, and we're here to go over this Week 13 slate, give out some helmet stickers. It is a little lighter of a slate, lots of top teams on bye weeks, and then this was the SEC cupcake schedule week as well, where felt like every big name SEC school was playing an FCS school. So we won't go over those games in detail either, but there's some stuff to hit on here. James, you ready to dive into this thing, man?
Yeah, I really liked what we did last week, and we might need to consider that for next year, doing the helmet stickers and recap a day later, so that we have an extra day to watch the film. This week, that was not necessary though, because half the teams that have prospects were playing like Eastern Illinois or something. So it'll be a little bit more brief, just in terms of the number of games that we're looking at today.
What we should do next year is do a mock draft Monday every Monday.
Yeah.
And then give us an extra day to watch tape. We could even do live on YouTube and Twitch if we wanted to do that as well. That would be fun.
I like that.
All right. So let's start with Florida State, NC State, the Friday game, because there's a helmet sticker in this game. NC State wins this game 21-11 over Florida State, who, after beating Alabama week 1, didn't do anything else the rest of the season.
Yeah, I have honestly not gone back and watched Florida State tape since the couple weeks after that Bama game. Once kind of figured out that they weren't a real serious contender, but did watch them this week for Justin Joly, NC State tight end. He is probably the favorite on my personal board for tight end 2. Behind
I've got to take this later in the episode as well, by the way. So I'm excited to talk about this.
I almost think Justin Joly is like a kind of budget Kenyon Sadiq in some ways, but I think there are other areas where he's better than Sadiq. I mean, he's, I think, a more refined route runner. I don't know if you've seen that picture of Justin Joly that like resurfaced
13-year-old
from when he was 13, and his hands look like one of those like stretchy things that you kind of throw, that are like elastic. But anyways, he had an outstanding contested catch in the end zone this game. Overall, 5 for 5, 66 yards, 1 touchdown. Just a really solid performance from Justin Joly, who I think I have highlighted with a helmet sticker before. But at this point, it's especially with this week, it's getting really hard to avoid duplicates. So
I gave him the helmet sticker for the Greg Jennings touchdown he scored that 1 week
put
too.
The team on his back, right?
Yeah. So I mean, Joly's he's been a frequent one we've mentioned in this podcast. Then so
the other thing we need to do next year is maybe like keep track of number of helmet stickers.
We need to do that for
like
sure.
An Ohio State helmet situation.
Yeah, and we need to go back to like week 1 and self audit. Like we gave this guy a helmet sticker week 1. Is he? Yeah. Where's he at now? All right. So Ohio State Rutgers, Max Clare had 100 yards because both Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith were in this game. I watched the tape, though. I felt like they were all on like slides and shallow crosses and leaks. And so he scored a touchdown too. It was wide open. The tape, though, I was like, he's open on all of these throws. So it wasn't like overly impressive tape in my opinion.
Yeah, I need to watch Ohio State offense. I did watch defense this week. And I think probably the standout, I think it was probably Davison Igbinosun's best game. He had a really nice pass breakup on like an in breaker. Good hip fluidity for his size there. My one, it's not a take, it's more just like a question, is the fact that Arvell Reese hasn't really done anything in 3 weeks. Like, at what point does that start to be a little bit of a concern for somebody that we're talking about as the first overall pick? And my take is that these last 3 games, he's just, it's how it's been on a lot of his Ohio State games, is that he just doesn't have the volume of snaps and specifically opportunity rushing the passer to really make the kind of impact and have the tape that we want to see. But like, he still does need to have it at some point, and so that's why I think the playoffs are going to be pretty important.
That's what I was going to say. If it carries over into the Big Ten championship game against presumably Indiana and
Yeah.
into what's the tiebreaker? What's the tiebreaker if Ohio State loses to Michigan? Is it
Oh,
Oregon Indiana
I
again?
saw a really good like picture kind of like spider
Yeah. Let's talk
map
about it
that
because
had it.
Indiana's not losing to Purdue.
Yeah. It's well, if Indiana beats Purdue, then they are definitely
Hmm.
in the Big Ten
And
championship.
for sure. But what has to happen between
If Michigan beats Ohio State, then Oregon has a chance to get into the Big Ten championship. And I
do, you
actually think
have,
Michigan has a slight chance.
do they have to score a certain amount of points Oregon to get in?
I don't,
Like a point
not that I'm
differential?
aware of.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what the tiebreaker would look like, but that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I would say if it carries over into like a prospective Big Ten championship game and in the playoffs, then that's what it gets concerning
Right.
for our
And what I will say is like this past game especially. I mean, it's not like there are any examples of Arvell Reese getting shut down one on
Mm-hmm.
one as a pass rusher. It's just like on the third downs where they might have had him rushing off the edge. This game they've and recently they've been having Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry do that. And I mean Caden Curry's been playing outstanding. Don't love him as a draft prospect, but
Right.
I don't blame them for going with Caden Curry like as a college edge rusher.
Yeah. All right, let's move to the game of the weekend here, and that would be Oregon USC. And there's a lot to talk. There's so many different layers to talk about with this game. I think the obvious layer to start with is the Dante Moore conversation. Where I said coming into the week, I was like, if he goes out and he puts out good tape against USC, like he's going to go first overall. And there still seems to be like a lot of hesitation that he's even going to declare. If you were told, if a team tells your agent, hey man, we're going to take this guy first overall, like how do you go back to school? How do you go back to school?
Yeah, I mean,
If you have two teams in the top 5 saying we'll take you if you're on the board, how do you go back to school?
that to me it's like the first step is there's no way, especially in this class, that there aren't going to be teams that want to take him in the top 5. And then at that point, I mean, when you see how quickly draft stock can tank in 1 year, it's like what if Oregon just doesn't hit on the portal and the O line next year? That could easily happen, and we could be sitting here like Oregon could do everything right, and it doesn't mean that like they're cooked for the long term, but they have an off year. They go like 6-6, 7-5 because they miss on the O line, and it's one of those situations where we're like, how do we evaluate Dante Moore? He gets injured because of that or something. So it's just there's so many things that could go wrong. Just from an individual financial standpoint, you gotta, I think, take the guaranteed money.
Oh, for sure. Like the max that he can make next year at Oregon is like $6 million.
Right.
And that's 1 year. Guaranteed money on the first overall pick. Let's
You're looking
look
at
up
it's like I looked it
Cam
up
Ward
last night. I think it's
contract.
I think it goes like 48 for 2025. I think it goes like 48, 46, 43, something like that. 45.
Yeah, 48 in nearly $49 million.
Yep.
$49 million guaranteed to go first overall. And that's not including the 5th-year option, which is fully guaranteed if it gets to that point.
And I would say, like, would you say Dante Moore, let's say he enters the draft, would you say Dante Moore first overall pick or the field?
Dante Moore, first overall pick. Again, and then like I've had the conversation on Twitter about this a lot because people are like, well, you've been saying Mendoza's your QB1 the whole season. It's like I still probably I still think that, but I think from an NFL perspective, you have to squint less to see it with Dante Moore.
Yeah,
and like that's really like he'd go first overall. Like that's just there's too many teams that need quarterbacks. With 2 teams right now sitting at the top of the draft order who both just took quarterbacks and will sell those picks.
Right.
So like he's gonna go first overall. A quarterback is gonna go first overall. I don't see how he goes back to school with that. I just don't. But he went 22 of 30 in this game, and I charted the game, man, and there were 3 drops.
The interception was like arguable.
He got caught. But like he had 3 drops. one miscommunication on the choice route and one throwaway. Of his 8 incompletions, those were 5 of them.
Yeah.
So he couldn't have played much better than what he did in this game. Just a stellar performance from Dante Moore. And then, yeah, the post against quarter half as well, like was gorgeous. Splitting the safeties through that. Just he couldn't have asked for a better game from Dante Moore in this matchup. Again, they've got Washington this week as well. They should be able to take care of business there. And if there's a chance that the playoffs could happen, we'll see with Ohio State and Michigan. I would go ahead and write Ohio State in, but I thought you could do that last year too. So, yeah, I'm very bullish on Dante Moore.
Okay, so I had to go back and rewatch that interception because I saw it from. I thought that it was a deflection off his receiver, but 18.
He got spot dropped.
Yeah, 18 got his hand on it.
Yeah. Another thing from this game as well, I think that maybe we've been sleeping on Noah Whittington a little bit.
Okay.
Because he's a very compact runner, like the body type that I like in running backs. And he's just consistently producing. I know he's a 5th-year senior. He's an older guy, but like he's just consistently producing, and he's doing it between the tackles. And there's a lot of explosive runs on his tape. So we might be time to maybe rewatch some Noah Whittington and get. I need to check him out. Yeah.
I've got a helmet sticker in this game.
Yeah, you do.
On the other side of the ball. I don't think we've really talked about this guy very much this year, but Bear Alexander, USC transfer, had an outstanding performance. 4 pressures, 4 stops. His hands, I mean, you talk about heavy hands at the point of contact. Really, like there are some reps where you can just see, and we'd say a similar thing about the defensive tackle you're going to talk about. Some reps where you can really see the opponent's helmet just jerk back when he makes contact. And showed a really consistent long arm and bull rush in this game. I think Bear Alexander is a little bit stiff, but in this defensive tackle class, he is one of the few guys that isn't just nose tackle,
Yeah.
So he's intriguing, and I think that he will probably go a little bit higher than he might rank on people's boards because I might rank 7 nose tackles or 6 nose tackles ahead of Bear Alexander, but teams are going to be looking at it by 3 tech versus nose tackle, depending on how they view him. So like he could slide up a little bit.
I think the conversation with Alexander has to like come down to how his interviews go as well. Like teams are going to have questions like throughout high school and college, how did you end up at like 7 different schools in 8 years between high school and college? Like how does that happen? Yeah. So I think there'll be some conversation there, but his tape this year has been impressive. The one thing I want to talk about too on the going back to the offensive side of the ball, and this is where you said Justin Jolie is kind of leading your race for tight end 2. My take right now is that tight end 1 and tight end 2 might be both Oregon Ducks in this class.
I thought number 9 was in next year's class.
He's a third year. He could come out.
For real. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
he's a Louisville transfer. Spent 2 years at Louisville.
We talked about him last week. I do like what I've seen. He's kind of the guy that I've just sort of seen adjacent to watching Kenyon Sadiq. But yeah, he's been very
does
impressive.
The inline dirty work while Sadiq flexes out a little bit. And I think obviously the injury to DK Moore, they've been running a lot more 12 personnel, but he's producing week in and week, like 3 straight weeks now, including the week Sadiq was out where he started. So like if Jamari Johnson declares, which I don't think he's going to, because like there's a chance he just goes back and becomes the top guy next year at Oregon. So like, why would you pass that up? But if he were to declare, I think that he would lead my race for tight end 2 right now.
Yeah, well, considering him in the race, I would definitely he would be in contention for sure. 6'5", 257. I wish that they gave Kenyon Sadiq more of that inline work because I think especially compared to last year, there just haven't been as many examples of him at the point of attack run blocking this year.
I would agree with that as well.
Over the last 2 weeks, he's really. I thought he got off to a slow start, but he's just answered any of my concerns over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. One other player to hit on this game, and we can move on. Well, actually, I want to talk about 2. Man, This is the first time that I think you've mentioned it a couple weeks ago. I think it's the first time that I've actually been impressed by Mateo Uyengale's power profile. That right tackle for USC has a little bit of a softer core, but he did win with bull rush in that game, converting speed to power. So first time I've seen that. And then I want to talk a little bit about Dylan Thieneman as well, because I just think he gets better every week. Like his tape looks a little more explosive, a little quicker to the football, and a little more heady every week.
Yeah.
So I know there's some teams out there that really love him. Dane had him in his top 50. So I think he just keeps getting better.
Would you
Moving
go?
on.
Would you go? I know Ramsey didn't play in this game, but would you go Ramsey or Thieneman?
Oh man. Oh. At this point, probably Thieneman. I don't think Ramsey's been overly impressive this year.
Yeah, I disagree because like Ramsey, to me, Ramsey's biggest issue was the tackling, and that
Yeah,
is
but if he's playing
completely.
single high, I don't super care about that all too much. But
Yeah, but he's completely fixed it this year, and like I don't really think he's regressed in other areas. But I do agree with you that Thieneman has been awesome.
all right, moving on. Missouri, Oklahoma. I had hot take coming in this game that Mateer would throw a couple interceptions and that Missouri would upset. That did not happen, mainly because Missouri's offense is anemic. I did think that right tackle Keegan Trost had a good game again for Missouri. Again, the 6-year senior we've talked a little bit about. Ultimately, I think he's a depth piece at guard, so like a day 3, easy late day 3 player, but like definitely a draftable player for Missouri. But in terms of their offense, outside of Ahmad Hardy, who we can't talk about till next year, there wasn't much to talk about from them in this perspective.
Yeah, I watched Oklahoma offense, Missouri defense. Didn't watch the other side of the ball, but I do have my third helmet sticker on Missouri defense. We talked about him recently in our linebacker episode. Josiah Trotter had another
Dude,
excellent game. I mean, his his ability to have it look like he's about to get sealed out of a gap and then just miraculously be able to win the play side edge and get into a rushing lane. I mean, he had some tackles where he was like two gaps out leveraged, and he's able to just dip under the final edge, lever it inside. I mean, there was one on like a shovel pass where he barely trips him up and gets the tackle. But yeah, really great game from Josiah Trotter.
that's linebacker 4 and a top 40 player, man. Like that's a good freaking football player. So I'm excited about Josiah Trotter. From an Oklahoma's perspective, I think that Grayson Holton had another good game, defensive tackle for Oklahoma. Again, Holton kind of just screams like that day 3 rotational tackle to me. Like he doesn't do anything flashy, but he's really sturdy. But from an Oklahoma perspective, it wasn't a very pretty game for them offensively either. I mean, John Mateer is a firm back to school candidate, in my opinion. He was taking some hits in this game too that he just can't take if he wants to play quarterback for a long time. I mean, Trotter lit him up twice along the sideline, but it wasn't an overly offensive game. It was an overly offensive game. It was not overly offensive to watch there.
This game has one of the most fraudulent PFF stat lines I've ever seen. I think it's got to be engagement farming for like Twitter graphics, because Oregon has a right tackle, left tackle 5-star Michael Fasusi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oklahoma.
Who like they posted this graphic, they like got a bunch of likes, that he allowed 0 pressures. I would challenge everybody to go watch his tape from this past week and try not to find at least 4 pressures that he gave up. So yeah, that's just a random little shout out. I'm sure he's a good player, but definitely disagree with the grading this week.
But love it. Moving on, Notre Dame Syracuse here. This game was 21-0 before Notre Dame took an offensive snap. And then it was 31-0 halftime, I believe, is what the score was.
Can I
and
say
then they
something?
won. Yeah.
For Jeremiah Love to be everybody's RB1, supposedly a bell cow lead back.
Oh, here we go.
And in a big game, in a playoff push, to only get 8 carries. It's just, what are we doing here?
And 171 yards on 8 carries.
Yeah. Obviously joking there. But yeah, it was a quick watch. This was just another
Yeah.
surgical performance from Jeremiah Love.
Yeah. Hilarious outing from Syracuse there. Uh, the only thing to mention in Alabama and Eastern Illinois is Ty Simpson only played a half and he threw 2 interceptions against an FCS team. I'm not going to chart it. I typically don't even watch these games, but I'm going to go watch this on Ty Simpson to see like what the hell happened in this game. Because like, especially for a player that like over the past month now on this podcast, I've been like kind of raising some concerns about like it's looking a little rocky, and it seems like it's trending in a downward direction for Simpson pretty steadily here.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to really craft a bigger fall off in a couple weeks for a top prospect than what Ty Simpson's doing right now.
Yeah. Cincinnati, BYU, again, I think we've hit the point of Sorsby being a firm back-to-school player as well. I know he threw for 300 yards, but a lot of those came in the fourth quarter as they were just airmailing the ball all over the field to try to come back in that game. From an NFL draft perspective, I like LJ Martin, dude. He doesn't really have that third gear in the open field, but he's a tough dude to bring down.
Yeah, I agree. Big fan of LJ Martin. I have not watched this game on tape. The other BYU guys I would mention though are the linebackers. I think both are day 3 or back to school if they have eligibility guys. But recently watched Isaiah Glasker for a podcast. He's had a real downfall since the summer, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know some people were really high on Glasker coming into the season.
I was kind of.
Yeah. Kansas State, Utah. This game was wild. Utah was getting blown out. Kansas State ran for over 400 yards and lost this game. Utah wins 51-47 on a Devin Dampier takeover late. I haven't gotten to this game to see how the tackles have played. Those Utah tackles have played. I did see that Caleb Lomu walked on senior day, though.
Yeah, so and then didn't Spencer Fano get injured?
He did, but then he came back. He was carted off, and then he came back on the field late. Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay.
So, yeah, interesting stuff there. From a Kansas State perspective, I kind of like the center Hecht, man. He's small, but I like him.
Yeah, I do like Hecht as well. As for a zone scheme, the going back to what you said though about Lomu, that's really interesting about him walking on senior day. There's some other. I also noticed Antonio Williams for Clemson walked is another guy, and they asked if they said, "Is there any chance you come back?" He said, "Absolutely not." So he's that we're gonna start to get some.
He said that out loud,
right? Which to me is news because I was not planning on watching Antonio Williams tape this year, but guess I'm going to be doing that.
Yeah, I wasn't either. Interesting stuff there. Wild. But yeah, this is the season to hunt the graphics for underclassmen who are appearing on the senior day graphics for sure.
It's the season of like I've got a list of 70 players on my Excel file that I don't know whether they've declared or not. So then I search them on Twitter, and then I have to skim through their long ass graphic written by ChatGPT to decide if it's a graphic saying they're returning, entering the transfer portal, declaring for the draft. So yeah, that's like my busy work that I do this time of the year.
Mm-hmm. It's like trying to find a player's date of birth by searching like "blessed to see" on Twitter to see when they tweeted it out last.
Birthday pics from like when they were 17, doing the math.
Right.
Yeah.
Blessed to see 17. Yeah. All right, Virginia, Miami here. When do we start having a real conversation about Marcellus Hawkins? Virginia Tech, Miami. Virginia Tech running back Marcellus Hawkins. When do we start having a real conversation about this guy?
I've been having the real conversation. Only those of us who are brave enough to watch Virginia Tech tape this year are having the conversation. But yeah, my bold take was that Marcellus Hawkins would have a 15+ yard run where he broke a tackle from Jacoby Thomas. And it's like, it's one of, the take did not hit, but it got about as close as you possibly could, especially considering that Jacoby Thomas went out with an injury and only played 13 snaps. Um, Marcellus Hawkins had a I think 33-yard run where Jacoby Thomas got pancaked. That doesn't count. He had an 8-yard run where he broke a tackle from Jacoby Thomas. That doesn't count. And then he had like a 17-yard run where a very, very generous interpretation could say that he broke the tackle, but it was really just Jacoby Thomas didn't have enough juice to get there to even attempt a tackle, so it doesn't count. But I will consider it a moral victory.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
And as far as Marcellus Hawkins, I mean, he's got the size, the muscle hamster build. He has speed to turn the corner. I like his vision on outside zone to find cutback lanes, but he does lose steam in his jump cuts, and so that would be my one critique, my biggest critique, I think.
Did you watch this game? Specifically Miami defense.
So I was basically just skimming through to try to see if the take hit. So
Okay.
I just watched Marcellus Hawkins mainly.
Okay. So I've got some growing concerns about Ruben Bain
Yeah.
as well. He doesn't look nearly as we had the conversation on the podcast, but again, he doesn't look nearly as explosive. There were a couple times that he turned a corner, the quarterback scrambled away from him, and he kind of just like pattered off the rest of the play. Some backside pursuit angles where it's like, I don't know if we're given 100% here. To me, the juice looks a little zapped later in the season here.
Yeah.
We'll see. Miami's in a position right now where they'll probably make the playoffs. I think they're out of contention unless a lot happens to play in the ACC championship game. But I think if they win out, I think they're in a good position to potentially sneak in. But I've got some concern. I this past week knocked the first round grade off of him. He has a high second round grade for me now.
So where does that rank?
15.
Okay.
15.
Yeah, Miami has a 31.7% chance to make the playoffs according to ESPN. Yeah, I agree with you. I think especially I agree with you just as far as how it's been the last 3 to 4 weeks, really since he got injured. He has the initial skill to get early wins, but then the burst to close into the quarterback is not there like it was early in the season.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. All right, we can talk about Pitt, Georgia Tech a little bit just because it was a huge upset and probably spoiled Georgia Tech's chances of doing much of anything after they were in a pretty good position. Again, from a Pitt perspective, Georgia Tech perspective, I don't have much to talk about here. I know a lot of people really like those Pitt linebackers, but they have to be the smallest duo of linebackers in college football between Kyle Lewis and Rasheem Biles.
So I saw somebody had Kyle Lewis like really high, but as a safety, which is
Interesting.
kind of interesting. Man, I just hate evaluating these overhangs so much because
They're so tiny too. Yeah,
they just don't do anything the position is just not translatable. So yeah, I hope he goes back to school and plays a different position, but I doubt that.
Yeah. Texas, Arkansas. I had a scout tell me this week that Mike Washington is a very good running back in this class. So I haven't watched it yet from Arkansas, fifth-year player. Okay. But I might go back and watch some Mike Washington just because I've had a scout talk about him a little bit here. I think we're also getting to the point where we're going to have to talk a lot about Arch again this summer. I mean, we were always in that point of having to talk about Arch again this summer. But
well, I mean, here's the thing. I'm hyped to talk about Arch now that there's tape against good teams and good tape against good teams.
Ever improving tape. Yeah.
So I'm pumped that Arch looks like he'll be a guy in next year's class. I just over the summer I was like, these are games that I would normally skip for most players. So
Yeah.
I didn't really have a take going into the year.
Yep, for sure. From an NFL draft perspective, between these two teams, again, not a lot of juice to talk about. I saw Taylor Green in the top 100 from a pretty popular site, and dude, I don't know how draftable that guy even is.
Yeah.
I yeah, that's I think all I want to say about that, and probably all we need to talk about with that game as well.
Do you think Trevor Gooseby is firmly back to school?
Yeah,
Yeah.
same with Quincy Rhodes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I keep seeing Quincy Rhodes high, but he's not really doing much to impress me
no.
recently.
All right, Tennessee, Florida. I have a helmet sticker in this game, and it's a player we need to probably spend a little bit of time talking about here. Caleb Banks, after 10 weeks out with a broken foot, played in this game. He's back. And I'm actually really excited more about his game against Florida State next week because watching this game, and I did it inside the film room on my Substacks. If you're a paid sub, you can watch that. But like, it started off a little slow. Like he's like, oh no, I'm not in game speed. I'm not up to game speed. But then as the game went on, it's like, oh, he's ramping up. Like he's getting back into the flow of like, this isn't practice anymore. This isn't a live game, and this is how fast it comes at you. And then I went back and I watched the LSU game from week 3 because I throughout this game I was like, man, it doesn't feel like he's really getting off the ball really hot. It kind of feels like there's a little bit of juice lacking. And I was like, is that an injury thing? Is that like he needs to ramp up to game speed? And then I went back to week 3. I was like, oh no, he's firing off the ball fast in that game. He's getting like the first steps hot. But between both those games and even in this game, his first game back, dude, his hands and his pass rush plan is unbelievably detailed. Unbelievably detailed to the point of like stacking counters instantaneously when a first move doesn't hit. He's like already spinning out off of it, back inside or forklifting or whatever. Like he's very good at pulling hands out of his frame at forklifting and replacing hands and winning back inside leverage. His pad level is like the only thing that bothers me because you can't be a 6'6" defensive tackle, 6'5" whatever defensive tackle and have high like and play high. Like that's my big hang up with Caleb Banks though.
Yeah, the frustrating thing in this game is how dominant he was one on one with blockers, and then just couldn't finish any of
And
the
then
plays.
miss the tackles in the hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was the definition of a you have to watch the tape performance because I think he had one tackle, but yeah,
But
it was phenomenal.
probably 4 or 5 insta wins, right? Like
Right.
hot off the
And
ball.
a
It's
lot
like
of a lot of these, even if as a defensive tackle, like it can still be a positive play if even when you miss a tackle, if you're funneling him into other defenders. Like if you get a quick win off the snap and then you miss the tackle 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage, you still had a net positive impact, even if it would have
yeah,
been better if you finished the tackle.
right. Just unbelievably heavy, fast, and detailed hands. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and then even at 6'6", I do think. So I couldn't tell if the pad level is like, is this just who he is? Because I thought his pad level was a little bit high last season, like coming out of summer scouting too. Um, but it's so weird because like I see fluidity in his hips where he can kind of like corner a little bit and he can flip his hips and make himself skinny through gaps pretty easily. But then it's like, then why are you playing so high? So
Yeah.
it's a tough thing for me to try to figure out what's going on there. But with that being said, he's got a game under his belt, and I expect him to be unblockable against Florida State. Now that he's got a game under his belt and is kind of back up to speed. Yeah, that's true. Most are. So I'm really excited for that game. But I graded him out based on the LSU game and this game so far, and I'll watch the Florida State game as well. And he's 11 on my board, dude. Like that's how good the tape was. Like
Yeah.
he's a good player. Um, again, from a Tennessee, Florida perspective here, anything else you want to hit on?
It might be a 2027 prospect, but Ethan Davis,
Yep.
the Tennessee tight end, I mean, he had a touchdown in this game where the speed around the corner, like I wonder he's eligible to declare, but he just doesn't have the sample size of production.
Mm-mm.
So, but he's really improved as a blocker. I think he could be a dude next year.
Do you remember I sent you like blocking clips of him earlier in the season too, of just
Yeah.
him leveling dudes in the
Yeah.
trenches? Yeah, he's a fun player. So we'll see once Kittelman graduates here what that's going to look like for
And
him next year.
I think he's so much better than Kitzelman.
I was never really moved by Kitzelman
He's
either.
gotten an opportunity because Kitzelman's been injured, but yeah.
Yeah. We could probably skip over some of these Big 12 games like Houston TCU. Houston got upset, probably spoiled their chances to play in a Big 12 championship game there. Houston has a receiver though. And again, I think he's more of a threat to get poached by a bigger P4 school than Houston, who is a third-year junior, Amari Thomas, and he is a UAB transfer this year to Houston. But this dude is fun. Like if we're talking about a receiver who with a dense lower half who's electric after the catch, um, and just is a massive playmaker who's producing, like Amari Thomas is doing a lot. He's got over 800 yards receiving for Houston this season and 9 touchdowns. And a lot of that has come over he's leading them in receiving. Again, I think he's probably more of a threat to transfer up, but if he declared, man, I would be very intrigued to write him up. Because he looks like a day 2 player to me.
Have not watched him, but yeah, definitely will. Could be a Matthew Golden situation.
Mm-hmm.
Transfer up. But although I remember I hated Matthew Golden's text.
They just spam
Houston
screens
tape.
at him. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Arizona State, Colorado. Did you get around to this one?
I watched it live, but have not watched it on tape.
I have not checked back in on that one either about Keith Abney or Omarion Miller. I saw Omarion had 3 catches and a touchdown in this game, but haven't gotten to check in on that. Again, I think Omarion's probably another one of those guys who's more a threat to transfer to a big time school than to declare this year. But I really like Omarion. I do. So we'll see how that plays out. But
I've said it before, but I'm fascinated to see what the transfer portal is going to look like this year. If it's more stacked just talent wise than normal, because it feels like compared to last year, there's a lot of like young guys with high draft upside that could enter the portal.
Yep, I agree. All right, man. I honestly am scrolling through the slate, and I think we could just hit on a couple of helmet stickers here and close this thing out. Unless there's a game you really want to talk about.
I don't think so.
All right, so let's go to Penn State, Nebraska, because I have a helmet sticker in this game. I've been resistant to Katron Allen as a player because I just don't think the burst is there, the long speed's there, and I still am pretty resistant because I think he's probably a little bit faster than I thought he was initially. I still think he's probably like a 4.6 running back. Like he's not going to be anything better than that. But in this game, he's been the best back all season and probably last year too down the stretch. Like most consistent back. In this game, he ran for 160 yards in Penn State's win over Nebraska, a game they were not favored in, and became Penn State's all-time leading rusher as well in this game as well. So I'm going to give Katron Allen a helmet sticker in this. He runs hard, and he's got really patient eyes. So like I think there's definitely a role for him, and he's going to get drafted. I do wonder what it's going to look like in Indy, though. I still wonder what it's going to look like in Indy. But he's a solid back and a guy that I would appreciate in a committee somewhere.
That play where he got tracked down by Kenneth Grant just really sticks out.
Yeah,
but I agree. This was an impressive performance. I went back and watched it, and I also kind of agree with you where he looks a little bit more athletic than maybe I thought he did at certain points like a year ago.
Yeah. And then my last helmet sticker here, I'm going to go to Cal Stanford. Again, he's a redshirt junior. I haven't heard any buzz. I hadn't even heard of the guy until I watched his tape this week, to be honest with you. Stanford linebacker Matt Rose. So when I'm building out my watch list every week, I look through some like advanced metrics, like who really stood out, stuff like that. And he exploded in this game. Again, Stanford beats Cal. Cal fires their head coach. But I was watching and I was like, this guy's unbelievably fluid in coverage. This guy's unbelievably instinctive in coverage. He's getting depth. He's roboting out to hashes and cutting off crossers and backside digs. It was really impressive what he was doing. So then I went back and I watched the Miami game, which was just a few weeks ago as well. And it's kind of the same thing where he's playing really high IQ football. In this game against Cal, he had 12 stop tackles, 2 pressures, Yeah, it was targeted 4 times and only gave up 37 yards receiving and coverage as well. But again, like coverage grades on second, third level players are always wonky. To me, what I saw him doing as a linebacker was really instinctive to match those crossers, those backside digs, get depth, hit the hash, feel things out. Like it was pretty heady stuff. Listed at 6'2", 230. He looks a little thin. He doesn't punch overly well. Not an overly physical player, and doesn't shed blocks overly well. So like, how high does he go? I don't know. But he is a 4th-year player, and he's the brother of the linebacker from Iowa State a couple years ago. Mike Rose was his name. Mike Rose, something Rose. You know what I'm talking about? The Iowa State linebacker from a couple years ago.
I vaguely remember that actually.
Yeah, it's his brother.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Mike Rose in 2021. He was a 2021 kid. Yeah. So I'm interested in Matt Rose. I'm gonna check out some more tape before I like get too overly excited. But again, looking through some of the advanced metric-y kind of stuff, like all of his best games are down the stretch, and all of his best games are against ranked teams. BYU, Florida State. Well, Florida State's not ranked. Miami, Cal, not ranked as well, but his most recent game. So Pitt's playing really good football right now. Pitt might win the ACC. So like, and the Miami, Pitt, and Cal game are 3 of his last 4 games as well. So like, he's stacking something up late in the season here. So I'll keep tabs on that. I'm gonna keep tabs on that. But that's my last helmet sticker as well. James, I have nothing else to go over here, man.
I got nothing else, but I'm excited for tomorrow's episode to break down next week's slate because some pretty exciting matchups.
There are, and it's our last one as well until we get into the circuit here, the championship week and in the playoffs, so and bowl season. So yeah, man, and that's all we have. So until next time, this has been another episode of the Daft on Draft podcast. See ya.